Cheerio. UFC's back in London for actually a pretty dope card, especially if you're into UK MMA. Two former champions at the top of the card. I'm hyped for it. As always, plenty of money to be made. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, we got Nathaniel Wood taking on Morgan Charrier. Wood is 20-6. That is 8-3 in the UFC, 4-2 at bantamweight, 4-1 at featherweight. This fight will be at featherweight. Charrier is 20-10-1. That is 2-1 in the UFC. Wood has won 4 of his last 5. Charrier has won 5 of his last 6. Wood, 31 years old. Charrier, 29 years old. I'm going to take the over 2.5 here. It's minus 220. I'm going to parlay it. I'll get to it later. Wood's hit it in 7 straight fights. Charrier's hit it in 4 of his last 7. Either way, I like this fight to go long. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, how about Nathaniel Wood as a dog here? Plus 130. He's looked really good at featherweight. He's beaten better guys. He's gotten at least 1 takedown in 6 of his last 7 wins. And Charrier was taken down in his last loss. So I feel like if Wood can just implement his wrestling here, he's got a clear path to victory. On the other hand, if he can't, I like Morgan Charrier money line minus 155. You'd have to parlay it. He's 2 inches taller, the more natural featherweight, so he should have the size advantage. He hits hard. 12 of his 20 pro wins coming by knockout, and Wood has been knocked out twice before. And if you want Charrier plus money, take him by decision, plus 140. Only 5 of his 20 pro wins have come by decision, but Wood has gone the distance in 7 straight fights, including his last 2 losses. Next fight of the night, we got Jordan Vucenic taking on Chris Duncan. So Vucenic is 13-3. That is 0-1 in the UFC. Duncan is 12-2. That is 3-1 in the UFC. Vucenic has won 4 of his last 5. Duncan has won 5 of his last 6. Vucenic, 29 years old. Duncan, 31 years old. I'm riding with Jordan Vucenic money line here. Minus 330. Gonna parlay it. Get to it later. He did lose his UFC debut, but it was a close fight, and he looked pretty damn good in it. He took it on 7 days' notice and just 13 days after he already fought in Cage Warriors. Kind of wild. Does have a win over Paul Hughes. He's going to have a full camp this time. He's got the home country crowd behind him, and majority of his wins come by sub, and Duncan was subbed in his last loss. So I feel like there's a clear path here for Vucenic to get it done. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, how about the over 1.5? You'd have to parlay it, minus 175. Vucenic's hit it in 4 of his last 6 fights, and Duncan's hit it in 3 of his last 6 fights. So a little risky, but probably hits it. How about Vucenic by finish? Plus 110. They're giving you plus money on him to get it done inside the distance as a minus 330 dog. 8 of his 13 pro wins have come by finish, including his last 5 wins. And Duncan was finished in both of his career losses. And last but not least, fight does not go the distance. It's minus 160, so you'd have to parlay it. 8 of Vucenic's 16 pro fights have knocked on the distance, and 11 of Duncan's 14 pro fights have knocked on the distance. That is 63% combined. Next fight of the night, we got Molly McCann taking on Alexa Thainara. So McCann is 14-7. That is 7-6 in the UFC. 6-5 at flyweight, 1-1 at strawweight. This fight will be at strawweight. Thainara is 11-1. This will be her UFC debut. McCann has lost 3 of her last 4. Thainara, on the other hand, has won 9 straight fights. McCann, 34 years old. Thainara, still just 27 years old. I'm going to take the over 2.5 here. It's a minus 260. It's in the parlay. I'll get to the end of it later. McCann's only hit it once in her last 6 fights, but she did hit it in 6 straight fights before that. So she doesn't tend to go long recently, but we know she's capable of going long. Thainara's hit it in 2 of her last 3 fights, including her Contender Series fight for whatever's that's worth. I was toying with the idea over 2.5, Thainara money line, so I will say Thainara money line I like a lot here. It's minus 185. You'd still have to parlay it. She looked good on Contender Series against a Brazilian national wrestling champion. I don't know how good wrestlers they are in Brazil. I know their jiu-jitsu is great, but is their wrestling that great? I don't know. Either way, she took this girl down 3 times, handled her on the ground. Molly's been taken down in all 6 of her UFC losses. Majority of her wins also come by sub, and McCann has been subbed 3 times. So I feel like Thainara can get her to the ground, probably finish her. Speaking of Thainara getting her to the ground and finishing her, Thainara by sub plus 450. 6 of her 11 pro wins have come by sub, and McCann was subbed in 2 of her last 3 losses. Also worth noting, of those 6 submission wins for Thainara, 3 of them were arm bars, and McCann those two submission losses were both armbar. So if your book offers Dinara by armbar, hop on that shit. And if you like the dog, Molly McCann, just take her by decision. Plus 240. 7 of her 14 pro wins have come by decision, including 4 of her 7 UFC wins. Next fight of the night, we got Gunnar Nelson taking on Kevin Holland. So Gunnar is 19-5-1. That is 10-5 in the UFC. Holland is 26-13 with 1 no contest. That is 13-10 with 1 no contest in the UFC. This fight will be at welterweight, where he is 4-3 in the UFC. Gunnar has won 3 of his last 5. Holland has lost 4 of his last 5 coming into this. Gunnar getting up there at 36 years old. Kevin Holland still just 32 years old. Taking Kevin Holland as a dog here. Damn right. Plus 125. He's 4-3 at welterweight, like I mentioned, but all 3 losses were to top 15 welterweights. He also has a win over a ranked welterweight in Joaquin Buckley. Granted, it was at middleweight, but it still counts. Gunnar does not even have a win over anyone in the UFC right now. He hasn't fought in 2 years. And get this, he has only 5 fights in the amount of time that Kevin's entire 25-fight UFC career has taken place. So Kevin's been way more active. I feel like this is a nice bounce back win for him here. If you're looking for anything else to take, how about the over 1.5? It's minus 150. You'd have to parlay it. Gunner's hit it in 4 of his last 6, but Holland's only hit it in 2 of his last 5, so a little risky. Kevin Holland by KO, another prop I like a lot. It's plus 250. 14 of his 26 pro wins have come by KO, and Gunnar has been KO'd before, and he's coming off a 2-year layoff. Could have a little ring rust. You never know. And if you want an over at plus money, take the over 2.5. It's plus 138. Gunner's hit it in 3 of his last 4, but Holland's only hit it in 2 of his last 5, just like the 1.5. Co-main event, we got Jan Blachowicz taking on Carlos Ulberg. So Blachowicz is 29-10-1. That is 12-7-1 in the UFC. Ulberg is 11-1. That is 7-1 in the UFC. Blachowicz is winless in 3 of his last 5 fights, while Ulberg has won 7 straight fights. Blachowicz, he's up there, man. 42 years old. Ulberg, 34 years old. Man, age is just a number. I'm taking Jan Blachowicz here, money line, plus 220. Damn right. Plus 220, that's absurd. I thought I got him early, too. I got this like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, hell yeah, beat the line. He's still plus 220 today. So hop on that while you can. He's a former champion. He's only lost to champions in the last 6 years. His last 2 fights, split decision with Poatan and a draw with Ankalaev. Those are not bad. I don't want to call them losses, but, those are not bad outcomes in your last 2 fights. Ulberg hasn't even fought anyone in the top 8 at light heavyweight, and Blachowicz has only fought top contenders in his last 7 fights. I mean, despite the age, man, Blachowicz, it seems like he can get it done on paper. Let's fucking go. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, you want Carlos Ulberg at plus money, take him by decision, plus 160. Only 3 of his 11 pro wins have come by decision, but his last win came by decision. I also think Blachowicz is going to be his toughest test to date, so I could see this one going all 15 minutes. Speaking of the over 2.5 in a parlay, minus 135. Jan's hit it in 3 of his last 5, and Ulberg's hit it in 2 of his last 3. And last but not least, fight end by KO is plus 115. 7 of Ulberg's 11 pro wins have come by KO. Both guys have been KO'd before, and Jan's got that legendary Polish power, baby. Let's go. Main event, Leon Edwards taking on Sean Brady. Leon is 22-4 with 1 no contest. That is 14-3 with 1 no contest in the UFC. Brady is 17-1. That is 7-1 in the UFC. Leon is coming off of a loss to Bilal, but he was on a 13-fight unbeaten streak before that. Brady has won 2 straight fights since also losing to Bilal. Leon, 33 years old. Brady, 32 years old. So I'm going to take the over 2.5 rounds here. It's minus 300. I'm parlaying it with the over 2.5 in Wood Charrier, Jordan Vucenic money line, and the over 2.5 in Molly McCann, Alexa Thainara. Gets us plus 250 for that 4-legger. This is somewhat playing it safe. The line is set at 4.5 on this fight, but anytime you're throwing in a 4-leg parlay, a little risky. Either way, Leon has hit the over 2.5 in 15 of his last 16 fights, and Brady's hit it in 10 of his last 16 fights. So this one should go long. Looking for anything else? How about Leon Edwards as a dog? He's plus 130 right now. He's former champion, and he's only lost to former champions in the last 10 years. He's got good takedown defense, and he's definitely the better striker. Brady's been pretty inactive. He's only fought once a year in the last 4 years, and I think if Leon can just stuff his takedown, he could easily get the win here. If you want Brady at plus money, take him by decision. 9 of his 17 pro wins have come by decision, including his last win, and all 3 of Leon's pro losses have come by decision.
I'm worth 100,000 like Woodrow. When a ball call me Wilson, going overboard at the Hilton.